أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم، وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم، وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم، واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. How's everyone today? Alhamdulillah. Um, Alhamdulillah, Allah has afforded us another day to come and learn His kalam, to try and come closer to Him. Alhamdulillah, it's a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which many are denied, or many are not afforded. So we say Alhamdulillah for that. When Khalil's out of town today, so we have quite a long session today, and then Muhammad will join us later, inshallah. But yeah, let's try and go through all our stuff. First, we do some nahu, or just say our skills again, then some nahu, then inshallah we'll get back for some nasiha, and then Surah Nur again, inshallah. So, Bismillah. With our nahu, we were busy with, we were actually looking at the homework from Ismu Kana, and yeah, basically Ismu Kana and the Ism of the sisters of Kana. I think we did our homework in that regard. We were looking at some examples of that, and we got sidetracked when we got to وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِالنَّاسِ لَرَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. So what we'll do is we'll first just say our skills is for revision, and then we will get back to the stuff. So let's say our skills together. مزيد في فعل. بسم الله. فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل مفعل فعل لا تفعل. فاعل يفاعل يفاعل تفعيلا. You're supposed to stop me. فاعل يفاعل فعالا مفاعلة مفاعل مفاعل فاعل لا تفاعل. Fourth باب. أفعل يفعل إفعالا مفعل مفعل أفعل لا تفعل. Fifth باب. تفعل يتفعل تفعلا متفعل متفعل تفعل لا تتفعل. Okay, next one. تفاعل. Sixth باب. تفاعل يتفاعل تفاعلا متفاعل متفاعل تفاعل لا تتفاعل. Seventh باب. إن فعل. إن فعل ينفعل انفعالا منفعل منفعل انفعل لا تنفعل. Eighth باب. افتعل افتعل يفتعل افتعالا مفتعل مفتعل افتعل لا تفتعل. Ninth باب. افعل يفعل افعلالا مفعل افعل لا تفعل. Tenth باب. استفعل استفعل يستفعل استفعالا مستفعل مستفعل استفعل لا تستفعل. That was just a repetition of our source skills for revision. And then we go back to our Nahu bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We're busy with the ism of Kana and the ism of the sisters of Kana. Right? We went through our homework. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ. That was where we stopped. And we did complete that, right? Okay. if you have any questions at any point in time, just don't hesitate to stop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the Khabr of inna and its sisters. Khabr of inna and its sisters. So in our list of things that we have, basically that gets fulfilled by the hal of raf, we had what so far? We had the fa'il, we had the naibul fa'il, we had the mubtada, we had the khabar, right? And in that mubtada and khabar, we know that the delayed mubtada is the same, and the khabar can come in various forms, right? Sometimes visible, sometimes it's not visible. And then we added to that list, the last thing we added was the ism of kana and its sisters, and the last one we're adding today is the khabar of inna and its sisters. And we said both of these things, kana and inna. And when I say kana or inna, kana and any one of its sisters, and inna or any one of its sisters, they enter upon noun-based sentences, right? And one thing that happens is the name of the mubtada changes to the ism of whatever is at the beginning of the sentence, right? The subject of that thing. In meaning, how does it change? It doesn't change much at all in meaning, right? In terms of the meaning of mubtada, that it is the focus of the sentence, it is the subject of the sentence. It doesn't change in that regard. It's just the name that changes. So from the mubtada to the ism of kana or the ism of inna. And the khabar we still call the khabar of kana or the khabar of inna. Right? As for the hals, what did we say? The ism of kana is in which hal? Halatul raf. And the khabar? Halatul nasb. That's why we didn't have a lesson on that. We kind of alluded to the fact that it works the same like a normal khabar, except that when it's visible, it's in nasb. Right? Then the khabar, then for inna, what happens? The ism is in which hal? The ism is now in nasb, and the khabar is in raf. So it's like the opposite of kana. Right. That's like a simple breakdown of the whole thing. So let's just get into that quickly. Some points about this. The khabar of inna and its sisters. Why khabar of inna now, not ism of inna? Because the ism of inna is in nasb, the khabar of inna is in raf. So three changes occur when you add inna or any one of its sisters to the beginning of a noun-based sentence. Right? And generally, you're not going to add these at the beginning of a verb-based sentence. Number one. I'm just gonna mention some points here. Right? They get added at the beginning of a noun-based sentence. Even kana, it gets added at the beginning of a noun-based sentence. Kana looks a little bit tricky because I can have the sentence kana yaf'alu. What does that mean? He was doing what he used to do. And it looks like there's yaf'alu, and then I put the kana before it. But what happens is, remember the ism of, as soon as I put the kana there, the ism of kana comes into play. Even if it's not explicitly mentioned, it's inside the kana. You follow? So that's why it's always going to come at the beginning of a noun-based sentence. So let me just write it on the board. Give you an example here. It looks like kana is coming at the beginning of a verb-based sentence. But as soon as the kana comes in, it becomes a noun-based sentence. Why? Because there's the ism of kana. Where's the ism of kana? I don't see any ism of kana here. Well, remember, I look for the ism of kana the same way that I look for the fa'il. So if it's not at the end of the kana, like kuntu or something like that, and it's not to the left of it, it will still be inside it. And so the ism is still there. I have the ism of the sentence and the khabar of the sentence. Except now the khabar of the sentence is going to be a verbal sentence. Right? That's clear. Like a normal khabar. But the point being that these enter upon noun-based sentences. Now, kana had the advantage of having that its ism built into it, if nowhere else, like a verb, right? But inna doesn't have that. Inna is not a verb, right? Inna and its sisters are not verbs. So they don't have that thing of having an inbuilt file that you're going to look for, like either at the end or to the left or inside. What they might have is a damir that's attached to it. And that's why you'll never find inna yaf'alu. Something happens, remember, it must enter upon a noun-based sentence. So where's the ism now? You'll have to, even if nothing else, will have to put something there. Like say, innahu yaf'alu. Right? Like innahu yaf'alu. You'll have to add a damir there, if nothing else. Point is that I'm emphasizing this idea that it enters upon both kana and inna, enter upon noun-based sentences. Kana might look tricky because I can just have kana then a verb, but the structure is still such that there's an ism of kana. Whether you can see it or not, it's still going to be inside there. And the verb will now be the khabr, which is a verbal sentence. With inna and its sisters, it's a lot more apparent. Why? Because inna doesn't have anything hidden inside it. So if it's not, if you know it's not going to be hidden inside it, then it's going to be visible. We'll have to see it. Right. So let's see. Adding inna or one of its sisters to a noun-based sentence has affects three changes. What are those three changes? There's a change in meaning. Obviously, that change in meaning is dependent upon which sister of inna is used. Right? Which sister of inna is used. If it's just inna, it's for emphasis. And we'll learn the meanings of the rest a bit later. Right? But there's a change in meaning. Inna is for emphasis, so what can you put there? Verily, indeed, certainly, that whatever emphasizes the sentence appropriately in the context. Right? That's the change in meaning. The second thing is, just like with kana, the name of the ism changes and the name of the khabar changes. And also the hals are affected. So what happens is, the ism here changes to nasb. Oh, sorry, the mubtada, what was the mubtada, changes to the ism of inna, and it goes to nasb. The khabar, we call it the khabar of inna, and it stays in raf. All right, stays in raf. So that's the, and we just have some examples. Yeah, we have the sentence, Inna Allaha ghafurun. Certainly, Allah is all forgiving. So if we look at this, right, we have inna, then we have our ism of inna, which is in nasb, and a khabar of inna, which is in raf. Inna Allaha ghafurun. The ism of inna, which is in nasb, and the khabar of inna, which is in raf. Right. Next point, same like kana. Whenever you add any one of its sisters, the same three changes take place. There's a change in meaning, whichever change is appropriate to the sister that's been used. The mubtada we now call the ism of whatever sister of kana we're using. Sorry, whatever sister of inna we're using, and it's in nasb. And the khabar we call the khabar of whichever sister of inna we're using, and it's now going to be in raf. It's going to stay in raf essentially. Right. So what are the sisters of inna? We have inna, anna, ka'anna, lakinna, layta, la'alla. I don't know if that's how when they teach it in like class, and they usually do inna, anna, ka'anna, lakinna, layta, la'alla. Inna is for emphasis, indeed. Inna, indeed, verily is for emphasis, to remove doubt. Anna means that. So Did he not know that Allah was Ghafur Rahim or something like that? Yeah, actually, yeah, we have an example of that as well. Anna Allah Ghafur Rahim. Anna is a sister of Inna. Same changes take place. Ism in Nasb, Khabr in Raf. So, yeah, the translation is definitely wrong. The man is not too. That's got nothing to do with it. Yeah, that Allah is all forgiving. That Allah is all forgiving. So, for example, you'll have your awalam. Like there's an example in Surah. And this is coming to mind now. Surah Al-Qalam. Iqra. Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara. Does he not know be that or bi anna that Allah yara? Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara. Does he not know that Allah sees? Point being that there you see the that in play. It's alam ya'lam bi. The buys with the ya'lam. And then we have the harf anna. So inna, anna, then we have ka'anna. Ka'anna. Ka'anna is made up of two parts. Ka and anna, but it gets used as one thing. Ka'anna, as if. Like if you want to go into the depth of it, it is made up of two parts. Ka plus anna. We used to have rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'ah, a doctor that used to come join us in the class, Dr. Noordin. Sulaiman Noordin. I remember the first time I came across this word. Not the first time I come in, I had come across the word many times, but somebody asked the question, is ka'anna one word or two words? So I said, look, I think it's two words, but I haven't really done a study into the depth of ka'anna. I just learned the word and I took it for granted. But that man, Dr. Sulaiman Noordin, he was working on a completion of an Arabic dictionary, Lane's lexicon. So he wrote me a whole little risala or little booklet on ka'anna. Eccentric, very, very nice. Yeah, alhamdulillah. He loved Arabic poetry. He used to have Arabic poetry symposiums at his house. And he gets everybody that's into Arabic poetry come to his house and they say some poetry, talk about the poetry. Very nice guy, mashallah. Grant him mercy. He actually passed away. I think it was last year. He passed away last year. Inna, anna, ka'anna, lakinna. Lakinna means but, or however. And you will notice that some of these words, I identify that sometimes they come without that shadda. Lakin. Right? Actually, it happens kind of with all of them. Or at least with the ones that we've covered thus far. But that's not for now. So inna, anna, ka'anna, lakinna, layta, and la'alla. Layta means if only, or how I wish that something. Laytaka tahlu wal hayatu mariratun, the poet says. When he's speaking to Allah and he says, Laytaka tahlu wal hayatu mariratun. How I wish that you, Allah, pleasant and sweet, wal hayatu mariratun, even if life is better. ليتك ترضى والأنام غضاب. I don't know why I'm thinking of this poetry now, maybe just because I was speaking about it. ليتك ترضى والأنام غضاب. How I wish that you were pleased with me even if the whole world is angry with me, Ya Allah. وليت الذي بيني وبينك عامر. How I wish that what is between me and you, our relationship is alive and kicking. ليتك وليت الذي بيني وبينك عامر وبيني وبين العالمين خراب. And my relationship with everything else, even if my relationship with everything else is in a ruin, my relationship with you must be alive. Later, if only. How I wish. And لعل will come across a lot. لعل means perhaps. So that. But like لعلكم تتقون, so that perhaps you can attain taqwa in that example. Question.
Might be something overlooking. Is this inna different to inna?
Is this inna different to inna? The very next point is going to answer that for you. Right. And what's that next point? Remember, I told you a little bit earlier. So okay, first thing, yeah, you're just going to have to learn these sisters of inna, right? Inna, annaka, anna, lakinna, layta, la'alla. But just learn it. And I think they're a lot easier to learn than the sisters of kana. But anyways, the point that I made earlier is that these are not af'al naqisa. They're not deficient verbs like kana and its sisters. So they don't have like a ism either at the end or built in. Right? Here, what we're going to have is it's the normal. You're going to have your normal sentence plus this thing. The only time where it looks like the inna changes is when the first thing in your sentence or the mubtada of your sentence is a damir. Then what I do is, remember when you learned about damair, you learned that the damir can either be attached or detached, right? You learned that it could be either attached or detached. Now, if my mubtada is a damir, then how does it come? He is tall. Huwa tawilun. It comes detached, standing on its own. Now, what happens is, if I put in now one of its sisters at the beginning of that sentence, then that damir that is the mubtada gets attached to it. It gets attached to it. So, what if I wanted to say, if I go from huwa tawilun and I want to add the inna at the beginning, then what will it be? Innahu tawilun. Innahu tawilun. And it looks like the inna is changing, but the inna is actually staying there. It's just that we're attaching a damir to it now. Right? So I'm going to just write that example here. We had huwa tawilun. If I want to add the inna is going to stay there, but I'm going to attach the pronoun to it. There's not a connection. Right? And basically, this damir is the equivalent of this damir. It's just that it now got attached. So what damir can I attach to it? I can attach any one of the damir. So I can have, let's go down the list. Just say the damir for me. Huwa, huma, hum. Hiya, huma, hunna. Anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. And when they're attached, they become what? Hu, huma, and hum. Ha, huma, and hunna. And then I have, and that becomes ka, kuma, kum. And then ki, kuma, kunna, and a ya, the ya mutakallim, right? And or the e sound, and then na. So let's just add that to inna. Let's add that to inna. Okay. So we have, I'm going to answer the question now. We have inna hu, inna huma, inna hum, innaha, innahuma, innahunna, innaka, innakuma, innakum, innaki, innakuma, innakunna, and then inni, inna. And you can have, just give me a second, the dual form. Oh, oh okay, sorry. I'm gonna, just give me a second. So we have inna, in, and the na one. Sometimes it comes as inni and inna, and sometimes it also comes separately as innani and innana. So they come in both ways. Innani or innana. I see that one is repeated here. That innani, the last one is supposed to be the na form. What do they mean? Same thing. Right. And what is that dhamir that's attached? It would have been the mubtada of the sentence, right? So now it's going to become the ism of the sentence. And the same thing applies to all the sisters. Laytahu, layta. Okay, let's just so basically the humas that I was adding in there is because of the duals. In Arabic, you know, we've been learning our scales. When we learn our scales, and to make a shortcut, we say yaf'alu, yaf'aluna for some of the classes. But there's duals in there always, actually. Singular, dual, plural. It's only for the first person where we only have singular and plural. The others all have something added in it. So, like, I mean, the full scale would be yaf'alu, yaf'alani, yaf'aluna. Taf'alu, taf'alani, yaf'alna. Taf'alu, taf'alani, taf'aluna. Taf'alina, taf'alani, taf'alna, af'alu, naf'alu. We took it out because they come so infrequently. And it just made the scale so much easier for people to learn. Because also, like if you learn, you're in the present tense scale, it's only yaf'alani for the third person masculine, and this others, third person feminine, first person masculine, and first person feminine, it's all taf'alani the same way.
What's the difference between the innani and
same thing?
Could you use either?
You can use either. A shadda, what is a shadda? This thing here. What does shadda indicate to you? What does it tell you? That is another one of the same letter. How many of that letter? 2 or 3. So when you're using innani, you just shove 2 of them together only. And when you say inni, you shove all 3 of them together. Right? So the shadda can indicate you that there's 2 or more of the same letter next to each other. Right. And just like with kana, the khabr is like a normal khabr. Remember, this inna or any one of its sisters, it enters upon a normal noun-based verb. Now, sorry, a noun-based sentence, right? So if it enters upon a noun-based sentence, whatever applies to the noun-based sentence applies to this. That the mubtada can be delayed, that the khabar can have different forms. All of those same things apply to the sentence that starts with inna. Why? Because if you just take your normal noun-based sentence, all that we're doing with inna is we're just slapping something at the beginning of. That's all. So we have here that the khabar of inna can take various forms as explained in the types of the khabar lesson. Right? The same rules that apply to a khabar apply here. And it's actually going to look the same as well, because this is in a raf, like a normal sentence, like a normal sentence, right? So it's going to look exactly the same. Yeah. No, no, it's just fatha. Inna ni. Yeah, yes, that's a mistake there. That's rather not cancel it, rather cancel out this one. Right? Innani and inni. Better. Or I could just go edit the document. I'll do that another time. Right. So the khabar, the same rules that apply to a normal khabar apply over here. Can delay. And then this is the next point is also a mistake here. It should be that the ismu inna can be delayed to after the khabru inna. Right? Usually the ism comes first, but we can also have the khabar coming, first, so the inna coming later. The same things that apply to the same things that apply to your normal sentence apply to this. The only thing is we're just slapping it in at the beginning. Right. Okay. What we'll do now is, inshallah, let's do some of the exercise. That's our last exercise for Raf. Right, then we're going to move on to Nasb. And in Nasb, there's a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of interesting lessons. We can learn about the maf'ul bihi, which we know, that's one we know. We can learn about the maf'ul fihi. We can learn about the dharf zaman, dharf makan, hal, maf'ul li ajlihi. We can learn, there's a number of things that we can learn about it, right? Obviously, we'll have a lesson on the khabar of inna, which will, khabar of kana, which will be basic because we already know it now. And the ism of inna, which we also already know basically now. And yeah, there might be some that I'm forgetting. So after Raf, inshallah, we'll do this stuff in us. But what I want to do now is break into our groups and do some of this exercise. It looks like there's one group of the guys and well, yeah, one group of the guys and maybe two groups of the ladies, inshallah. And the online people, we can break into our groups here as well, inshallah. I'm going to open up groups now. And we can just start working on the exercise on page 20. Right? I want to get that group work going on again, more interaction and stuff. So let's do that. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Are there any questions before we do? No questions before we do? Okay, and I'm going to open up some groups now. What I'm going to do is for the online people, I'm going to create 5 groups, right? And then I'm going to let you. Okay, I'm just going to assign automatically. We'll just do this. Okay, I'm gonna give that instruction now. So what I want you to do is the thing this is translate, but what I actually want you to do is identify for me the ism and the khabar. Right? And remember all of your stuff now about khabar and about basically what the mubtada and the khabar as well. So bismillah. Okay, so is everybody back? I think let's get back to what we were busy with, inshallah. Yeah? So what we'll do now is, inshallah, I'm not going to go through the answers to that homework now. Oh, not sorry, the homework, but I'm not going to go through the answers to that exercise now. We can discuss that next week, inshallah, right? I don't know how far you guys have gotten, but you can complete that for homework, inshallah. Remember, identify the translated, identify the ism, identify the khabr of inna, or whichever one of its sisters come there, and keep in mind all of the rules that apply to the khabr and all of the rules that apply to the mubtada when doing that, right? We'll go through that. We'll go through that next week, inshallah. Are there any questions that you think need to be answered before going through the homework that might have cropped up while we're busy with it? There was one mistake that I picked up already. One of the brothers pointed out. The number 6, the reference is incorrect. It should be Surah 2, verse 158. And then, Inna Allah ya'murukum an tadhbahu baqarah. No, sorry. Number 6, the reference should be 158. 2, 158, not 213. And then what was the question that you had now? Yes. An. We didn't talk about an. We spoke about anna. Yeah, but that's a different thing. There, different rules apply. Right. So we're just looking at the stuff that you did. Inna, anna, ka'anna, lakinna, later, alla. This an is also translated as that.
When you attach the damir, does the damir
Yes.
automatically become the ism?
The question is, Jazakallah for the question. The question was, if we add the damir, does the damir automatically become the ism? Yes. Right? Yes. Because where does that damir come from? Right? That damir is, if I had to just take that inna away from the beginning of the nominal sentence, then it would be a detached pronoun. Right? So yes, that is correct. Then what I thought it was, just because I was dragging my feet with it, and it's quite long, I was going through that meanings of the lamb because I wanted to type it out for you. That 22 meanings that I spoke about last week is only for a lamb that puts a word into jar. So a lam on its own as an individual letter, sometimes it's a harful jar. Right? Sometimes it puts, if it comes on some verbs, sometimes it puts into jazm. Sometimes it doesn't affect the word that comes after it. Right? We call ghayra amila. Like when I say the lam for emphasis, la. Inna Allah la ghafurun. Doesn't affect the hal of the word. So those are 3 states that the lam come in. Then there's a difference of opinion amongst the Kufan scholars, the Nahu scholars of Kufa and of Basra. There's different schools of thought in fiqh and aqidah, all this stuff. There's different scholars, there's different schools of thought in Nahu also. So you have the Kufan school and the Basri school. Those are the 2 large schools, right? So the Kufan school say that there are lams that put the word into nasb as well. Right? So the 22 meanings is only for jar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 meanings of it, right? And then we can just add to that every week. Otherwise, I always drag my feet and I don't know when, I have a word that I have to keep. Number 6 is only the first word. Ism. Yes. The question is, it's only the first word. Inna safa wal marwata. So usually what happens when you have a wa? The first word gets the thing and the second one we call ma'atuf. Right? Okay, but we'll go through that stuff next week, inshallah. For now, I just want to go through the meanings of lam. So what we're focusing on here now? We're only focusing on the lam We are only focusing on a lam that's a harful jar. Right? The lam that's a harful jar. So it comes before a noun. Only nouns are in jar. Right? It comes before a noun and it puts the noun into jar. Harful jar, so it will form a harful jar and ismul majrur. So I'm just going to give you some meanings of this. I'm sorry, lose my place. Okay, so we'll just look at 5 meanings of it. So sometimes the lam has the meaning of istihqaq. Istihqaq. To show that something is someone's right or they are deserving of that thing. So an example of that is Alhamdu lillahi. Right? Allah is the one deserving of, or for whom praise is rightfully his. I'm just going to, so the same rule applies to all of us, right? That lam comes before something, it puts the word into jar. Alhamdu lillahi. So that same rule applies also. I'm just going to give you the different meanings now. The one meaning is istihqaq. We'll say that lam is for istihqaq. To show that something is deserving or it's rightfully theirs. And then another example is wailun lil mutaffifin. Wailun lil mutaffifin. Like that means woe or wailun, a place in Jahannam for the mutaffifin. They are deserving of that punishment. They are deserving of destruction, essentially. It's not saying that they own anything. It's saying that they're deserving of something. Right? That's istihqaq. The second meaning is that I'm going to give you for today is al-ikhtisas. Al-ikhtisas. To show that something is specifically for a group of people or specifically for someone. So an example here would be al-jannatu lil-mu'minin. So to have the meaning that Jannah is specifically for the believers. They don't own Jannah. Right? They don't own Jannah, but it's specifically for them. Third example. Now, the third example, sorry, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5 are very similar. Very, very similar, right? And there's difference of opinion. Some say you don't have to even separate between number 2 and number 3. The one is to show mulk, to show kingship or ownership of things, right? Like for example, we have here lahu ma fi samawati wa ma fil ard. To him belongs whatever is in the heavens and the earth. So that's to show dominion. Number 4 is yes.
Is that the same as Lam Tamlik?
No, look at number 4. Number 4 is tamlik.
Okay.
Arabic, that's tamlik. So the first one is to show mulk, dominion, right? The fourth one is at-tamlik, to show that you're making someone owner of something, right? So the idea is literally taking the meaning of one is to own oneself, tamlik, to make somebody else own, from the second one, right? So he gives the example, wahabtu li zaydin dinar. I gave a dinar li zayd, to Zayd. So I made him owner of that thing. So one is to transfer of ownership. That's number 4. And number 5 is shibhu tamlik. You're not actually making somebody the owner, but you are saying something in a form that it seems like you are making them the owner. Like Allah says, جَعَلَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. Allah made lakum, for you, that's how we translate it, min anfusikum, from yourselves, azwajan, spouses. Do you own your spouses? No, you don't own your spouses. So that's what we call shibhu tamlik. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, they would say like almost for your benefit kind of thing, or it's in the guise of ownership, but it's not actual transfer of ownership. It's what we call shibhu tamlik. Shibhu means something that appears similar to something else, that bears a resemblance. So shibhu tamlik bears resemblance, but isn't actually tamlik. Right, so we do 5 this week, and we'll just maybe add another 5 next week and 5 the following week. I don't want that to take up too much of the time, right? So the 5 meanings we had this week was istihqaq, ikhtisas, mulk, tamlik, shibhu tamlik. How does the lam work when it comes in that? We're going to have a lam followed by an ism, and it's a jar and majroor. These are just different potential meanings it can have. Right? Like sometimes we actually, in a basic like tafsir class, when we're doing tarjuma, we just say lam and then whichever one, and say the spirit means alhamdulillah, all praises for Allah. No, we're not making Allah the owner of praise. We are saying that Allah is the only one truly deserving of praise. That's istihqaq, it's not tamlik. I would like oftentimes just paper over some of these nuances, not to make things too especially like in first year. I must tell you, lam has 22 meanings only when it comes to harf al-jar. Amila lil-jar. No. So those are 5 meanings that you have to go add on every time, inshallah. Number 3. So the first one I said was istihqaq. The second one I said was ikhtisas. The third one I said is mulk. To show dominion. That's how he's the specific owner of that thing. Spot is a specific owner of that thing. And the slight nuance in this one as opposed to others is that it shows there isn't a sharing of ownership in that. Not like tamlik has the meaning of transfer of ownership. This one has more the idea of unique ownership, not transferring of ownership. And sometimes it's just for the fact that it might be shared ownership, but not like communal, it's not for everybody. Right. Okay, those 5. So we'll carry on with that next week, inshallah. What I'm going to do now is we add some of our hadith. We do some of our hadith, bismillah. We just read 1 or 2 of our hadith or one of our hadith and take some lesson from that. And then after break, inshallah, we'll get to Surah Nur. This Arabic stuff, you thought maybe first say, okay, now I did now. Finished. the funny thing is, yes?
Sheikh, could you commit all this to paper and send it to us?
Okay, I'm going to try to do that, inshallah. Okay, but not all at once, so 5 at a time. If anybody is typing it out, even if you just send it to me on WhatsApp or whatever, it will just make my job easier. Then I'll put it on a PDF, and then we'll send it to the class, inshallah. So is that fine, Anna, if I add just 5 every week, inshallah? And then at the end of it, once I have it all down, then I'll just compile it and send a whole document with all the meanings of them. Okay. So hadith. No, it's like it's simple. We just did 5 and just mentioning them because the rule stays the same. The rule stays the same.
But only context will be
Context will tell you this. And also, you, on account of seeing this 22 different meanings for the same lamb, for that reason, you'll find Mufassirin differing in the interpretation very slightly at times. Let me not.
Because there's no harmless translation actually.
Yes. And also, I mean, sometimes it has profound impact. I said, you don't own your spouses. You know, in the fiqh books they discuss, there's a discussion about that. Do people own their spouses? And some of the ladies are saying they own. No. So can you see how a slight misinterpretation of that lamb can change to a, can cause a wrong understanding. Yeah. So yeah. No, so I'm saying that, this is the importance of knowing all of these nuances in meaning. If the only meaning you knew for it was lam with tamlik, then you may say, hey, a guy may think, hey, I own my wife. No, that's only one of the 22 meanings of the lam that is amil al-jar. It's other meanings as well. Okay, anybody remember what was the last hadith that we did there? That was a long time ago.
The perfection of faith.
Perfection of faith.